You are listening to The Scope, Phelps Health Podcast, Episode 18. Today we're talking about weight management. Let's get started. Hi everybody, I'm your host, Paige Heitman. The Scope Podcast is produced on a regular basis and can be found by visiting phelpshealth.org. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your SoundCloud stream or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow Phelps Health on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Today our guest is Pamela Gray, a physician assistant with Phelps Health. Welcome to our show today. This is your first time.
It is my first time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Pretty exciting. I know our masks kind of match, so that's a little fun.
Yes. Color coordinated.
Yes, this is our new normal, so we're getting familiar with it.
Yes.
So before we get started talking about weight management today and kind of what that means to us, tell us why you chose to become a physician assistant and what that means to you.
So I, growing up, always wanted to be one of two things. A doctor or a spy. Because, obviously they go together. And so as I was pursuing my undergrad degree, I graduated, I had been accepted into med school, and all of a sudden I decided this is a ridiculous profession. I don't want to be a doctor, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually taught high school and coached for a few years. And then I kind of started feeling that tug of missing medicine again. And since it was a career change, I didn't want to invest the time of, 4 years of med school and 3 years of residency. So the PA profession was, the perfect mix for me at the time.
So why did you choose Phelps Health specifically?
So I grew up here. I'm from St. James. And not that our family has been here forever. I don't have, a lot of family ties to the area, but my parents do live here. I like the community. My husband has a business here. My kids are in school here, so.
Yeah, it's pretty close to your heart.
It is.
Yeah, you don't have to be a true blue, have lived here for 5 or 6 generations to really feel like you're part of our family.
Right. And
That's really cool.
We're very into, kayaking and hiking, and this area is just so great.
Yes, well, Salem, I'm from Salem, and I always tell people, yeah, we're the gateway to the Ozark Riverways, and everybody thinks I'm crazy when I say that, but it really is.
Yes.
This area is so rich and full of things that you can do outside.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of outside, we're talking about weight management.
Yes.
So, we don't really often plan for a pandemic, especially one like COVID-19. And since it's hit, there are so many things about our lives that have changed, whether it's like work or school or both even. And everything looks different, especially how we eat now. So today I really want to discuss what organizations like Yale Medicine have called the Quarantine 15 or the Quarantine 19, depending on how much weight you have or haven't gained, and talk about some healthy habits. So if you're ready, we're just going to dive right in.
That works for me.
Perfect. So the first question I have is, how has COVID-19 created kind of what we're calling this perfect storm in which many people throughout the United States have gained weight?
So I think that is a very multifactorial kind of issue. So on one hand, if we go back to our primal brain, so let's say February and March, we started being bombarded constantly with signs of fear and death and, scarcity, whether it be toilet paper or beef or whatever. We were just constantly bombarded with messages of scarcity. And that really triggered kind of our primal, our lizard brain, where we started thinking, I have to survive, right? So all of a sudden, you became more hungry, or, you went to a store and you saw there was no toilet paper. So you're like, oh my gosh, I need to stock up on 27 cans of ravioli. You may have never bought that before, but now when it's you may have food scarcity, you start getting prepared for that.
Yeah, so. It kind of scares you into buying things that, like you said, you've never even bought before or needed before, like ravioli.
Yeah, and also a lot of people, we were afraid to go to the store. So if you were a person that, every 4 or 5 days you went to the grocery store and you got, fresh fruits and vegetables, now you cut down on that. So maybe you're going to the store every couple weeks, every 3 weeks, and that food's not going to last that entire time. So you switched maybe to more processed foods.
Yeah, absolutely. So that leads me kind of into my next question. Whenever people are waiting that long to go to the grocery store or they're scared to go to the grocery store, how does stress affect weight gain?
Okay, So when you're under stress, whether it be real or imagined, your body produces a hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is a great hormone. You know, it's made for, we see the saber-toothed tiger, our body starts producing cortisol, so we can produce more insulin to break down sugars in our body so we can run, okay? And what happens is cortisol increases your insulin, but if there's no real threat, okay, you're just gonna constantly be hungry. So cortisol production, you know, increases. You never have to run the saber-toothed tiger. You know, you've been preparing for it. Your body's storing energy for it, and you never have the event to actually burn off the calories that you've been storing.
Yeah, so then you're just sitting on all of that weight.
Right.
Wow. So what happens too with emotional eating? Is that kind of the same thing that happens in our brain? Do we just get those high levels of cortisol, or what happens to our brain map whenever we're really stressed whenever we eat like that?
Kind of the same. So, you know, cortisol triggers kind of a large cascade, but for the most part, we're producing more insulin, so we're breaking down carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are what feeds our brain, okay? So it needs the sugars in order for us to think clearly. And that's kind of what happens is we want more and more food, but we never. And if the cortisol always stays high and we never get back to normal, then we're gonna just constantly be hungry.
So let's say I'm sitting there with my whole sleeves of Oreos or, you know, whatever it is, things that I've actually done, like whenever I was in college and I'm super stressed out. How do I tell between like I'm stressed and I'm actually hungry and I need to eat?
So, you know, honestly, it's kind of hard to decide at the moment. And so last month, my dad passed away, and I was in the ICU with him, and I was hungry. I hadn't eaten all day, but I got some bad news, and I'm in the ICU by myself, and I go to the vending machine because I'm hungry, and it's there, and all I can think is, I want some Reese's peanut butter cups. Like, that's it. That's what I wanted right then, at that moment. That was going to feed my hunger, you know, and all they had were healthy options. You know,
and you were really disappointed.
It was Barnes ICU. You know, there was hummus, there was carrots, there was like I wanted none of that. You know, so at that moment I'm like, am I even really hungry? Like, if what you want, if you don't have it and you're still looking for food, like you're probably legitimately hungry. You know, my kids are kind of the same way. You know, they like to say they're hungry at bedtime to maybe like prolong bedtime.
Yes.
So in our house, if you say you're hungry at bedtime, like you're offered like carrots and broccoli because
things that you don't want.
If you're really hungry, you're gonna eat it.
Uh-huh.
And if you're not, you'll probably just go to bed.
Oh, that's really funny. So how often do they actually go to bed?
You know, my daughter's like super stubborn, so she'll eat carrots and broccoli like every night. So
she's up till midnight eating carrots.
That's just how it is. So
well, she's gonna have really great eyesight.
Yes, she will. So
why do you think food is such a comfort to people?
So, you know, we really, in terms of society and culture, we have a big focus on food. If you think about getting together with your family in terms of holidays, what do? Most people eat.
Yeah, you
know.
You eat a lot. You eat like 3 or 4 times.
Right, and so we're very focused on food. Food also, when we eat it, when we digest it, we get this chemical reaction in our brain, and it produces dopamine, which makes us feel good. So it's kind of a positive feedback loop. You know, we're stressed out, we eat an Oreo, you know, our body immediately can break that down into energy. We get the dopamine release, and we're reinforced by that.
So I wanted to ask this later, but I think this is a perfect segue. I read this article recently, and it was about French culture specifically, and how a lot of French people are predominantly thinner than American people, and the reason for that is whenever they eat, it takes them hours to eat because they eat for pleasure. But whenever they eat for pleasure, let's say there are like 3 or 4 things on their plate. And whenever they take a bite of like a meat, and then they'll take a bite of something else, and they'll go all the way through their plate taking small bites of everything, and then take a drink of water or a sip of wine, and then they'll start that whole process over because it's like cleansing their palate because they're getting different textures every time they take a bite.
Right.
So their meal takes so much longer, but it's this idea of pleasure and satiety whenever they're eating their food.
Right.
Is there something to that?
There is something to just slowing down and being able to recognize hunger cues, and also the hormones that kind of regulate, like, hey, I'm full enough. You know, if you had, let's say, 1,500 calories of Oreos in front of you and 1,500 calories of, let's say, like, prime rib, okay? You're going to get much fuller on the prime rib than the Oreos because of the molecular makeup of that food slows down the hunger hormones being like, hey, I've had enough. So,
does part of it too have to deal with how quickly we eat our food as well? Should we slow down whenever we eat that prime rib versus the Oreo or whatever it is? Even if we're eating like 2 Oreos, should we really take our time and munch on those instead of just shoving it in our mouth?
I mean, technically, yes. You know,
as hard as that
as hard as that is. Because if you're just racing through a meal, you're really ignoring your body's hunger cues, your body's fullness cues, how it's making you feel. You're just kind of like pushing that all the way on the back burner, and you don't ever really recognize those cues.
Is there a way to tell when we're full? Is it different for every person?
It really is different for every person, and some people, it takes longer, and it kind of depends. Are you drinking fluids while you're eating? Because if water is taking up space in your stomach,
you're gonna get full faster.
You're gonna get full faster because you're not gonna stay full as long.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna turn into energy for you, but you'll get full faster.
So what are some other bad eating habits that could be part of emotional eating or like leading to it?
So really, rushing through meals is definitely one. Being on social media while you eat.
Really?
Or, looking at the news or watching TV. Anything that really takes away your focus of what you're eating and how your body feels is going to take away from you recognizing fullness.
It's funny that you say social media to me because I feel like so much of what social media is now is this perpetuated image of what a male or female body type should look like. And so you see that on social media. So while I'm over here munching on my Oreos, I might see this super ripped female bodybuilder and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be that while I'm eating my Oreos.
Right. And, there's so many lies of diet culture and social media. I could talk about that forever because I really am passionate about health and wellness over that ideal image. But that's just one of those things. Like just turn off your phone, and see. Just focus on eating. Focus on the people you're with, and you'll probably eat less.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. So to stay at home translate to binge at home, especially now whenever so many employees are working from home and they've made this, transition to where not only are they working and employees, but a lot of time they're also parents because food is so easily available to us at home versus whenever we come to work and we might have prepackaged meals because we don't bring our fridges with us to work.
Right. I kind of have the opposite effect, and, I used to work in the ER. For some reason, there was always food there. Like, it was always someone's birthday. There were always donuts. There was just so much food there. And kind of the same in my office. Like, there's always candy or there's always, whatever. Like, you go to the cafeteria and you can get whatever you want. It's not always healthy. But I think binging is kind of a different beast in terms of what you're actually doing when you binge eat. So,
what do you think happens whenever somebody binge eats? Do you think they're eating what they're feeling?
A lot of times they're eating what they're feeling, or they've made it so restrictive around a certain food that they have no other choice. So, your Oreo example, okay? Let's say you want to lose weight or you want to get healthier and you're going to cut out Oreos, right? Let's say you really love them though. So you're like, I see Oreos. I really want an Oreo, but I shouldn't have the Oreo. I'm going to go and I'm going to drink this water instead of eating that Oreo, okay? Your body knows that glass of water is not an Oreo, okay? Yes. So you're telling yourself no, and so like the next day you haven't like cured that craving or that want for that Oreo, but you're still resisting. Okay, so you drink another glass of water, you distract yourself again, and let's say on day 3 you still haven't fulfilled this want for an Oreo, and then all of a sudden you're just binging on the Oreos, right? Because you've restricted yourself for so long that now I'm going to eat this Oreo, but I'm not going to eat them tomorrow, so I better get my fill today. And that it's really not good. Like, just eat the Oreo. Like, stop feeling guilty about it. Listen to your body's cue. Like, if you stop feeling guilty about food and you start listening to really what your body needs or wants, you're not going to eat a sleeve of Oreos every day.
Yeah, you'll just have 1 or 2 and then you're done.
And you'll move on, and you're not going to be obsessed with thinking about it.
Yeah, and then I feel like there's also, you won't have any guilt once you eat it. Because I would feel way less guilt if I ate 1 or 2 Oreos versus 2 sleeves of Oreos. That's a big caloric difference, right?
It is, and I also have to say, like, we have to get rid of the guilt around food. Like, an Oreo holds no moral value. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just an Oreo.
Yeah.
Okay?
It is what it is.
So just eat it and move on. So, yes.
Yeah, I like that. It's just an Oreo.
It's just an Oreo.
So another question that I have kind of with this is, can thinking about how we eat help reframe our relationship with food? So like the Oreo, thinking about what you just said, can we do that with everything that we eat? So we're not just thinking that it's a diet, but we're changing this diet mindset to like a health and wellness lifestyle.
Absolutely. So, and the research shows us like 95 to 97% of diets fail. Okay? That's a huge number.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And they're meant to fail because they want your money. Like, they don't want your money for 6 weeks. They want your money forever, right? So if we could cure obesity or make people healthier with diets, like everyone in America would be thin, right? Because we've all been on diets at some point.
It wouldn't be a $1 billion industry, right?
No, right? We'd all be thin, so we wouldn't need them. No, so we really have to start, really just allowing ourselves to not feel guilt around food, okay? To start listening to our body's cues as, maybe I'm going to eat more than I ate yesterday, and that's okay because, I expended more energy, or, I had a bad day and I want some Reese's peanut butter cups or whatever. Like, if you start kind of training your brain that nothing's off limits, you're not going to get into that binge purge cycle where you just go crazy at the sight of, whatever your trigger food is, because you have no trigger foods, because all foods are available to you at all times.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great way to think about that, because I personally really love sweets. So I always tell everybody, whenever I bake sweets, I have to give them away because my husband doesn't really like chocolate. So I'm like, if I bake brownies, I'm eating the whole pan of brownies.
Right, and you're going to feel bad, and then or you're going to swear it off. I'm going to eat this brownie today, and then I'm not having brownies forever, so let's get rid of the whole pan tonight. Like,
yes, but I'm also not that person because I love baking. So.
Right.
What about drinking water? So, we talk about food and how important that is. What about water as part of this equation?
So it's really important to stay hydrated. It is. And there's no magic hydration number. Drinking half your body weight in ounces. I see this a lot, like perpetuated through like diet culture, diet myth. Like, that is not scientific, okay?
Really? Okay.
Drink water when you're thirsty, make sure your urine isn't like very discolored, that's one of the ways we can really check it to see if we're hydrated or not. Just drink when you're thirsty. There's water and food. You don't have to be downing a gallon of water a day to be healthy.
Yeah. So on the opposite end of the spectrum, is it bad if your urine is too clear? Did you have too much water? Can you have too much water?
I mean, essentially there is a disorder where you could get water toxicity, but you would have to drink a lot of water, and normally that's a whole nother issue. Most people are not going to get water intoxication.
So moving on to our next question, can you give us some examples of how we can utilize like portion control or mindfulness whenever we're eating to kind of make meals ahead of time so that whenever we're having these types of stress cravings or whenever we want to binge, we can be prepared?
So I think, when someone comes to my clinic and they want to talk weight loss or they want to talk getting healthier, the first thing I'm really going to ask them is, why do you want to do that? Like, is it a vanity thing? Do you really care more about your health? Like, what's your trigger?
Motivation?
What's your motivation? What are your barriers? And sometimes people just don't know how to make a plate.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to teach like a plating method.
Okay.
So if we had a plate, and you don't want to think about what you're eating, you want to take that off your mental plate. Okay. So the first thing you could do is cut your plate in half and fill half of it with vegetables. Okay.
Any type of vegetable?
Any type of vegetables. Okay. It doesn't matter. Just
Mm-hmm.
fill it with vegetables. Okay. So that's 50% of your plate. You know, and I know lots of people say they don't like vegetables, but I promise you your palate has changed since you were 5. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the more vegetables you eat, the more your taste buds are going to change and adapt, and you might actually like know how to cook now. Okay.
Or you can watch a video.
Or you can watch a video, or you know. So there are lots of ways to fix vegetables, but 50% vegetables. Okay. On the other half of your plate, cut that in half. Okay. Fill one of those with protein. Okay. Fish, chicken, whatever. You can have red meat.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend it, you know, daily, but it can be on there. So fill that with your protein. And with the other portion, fill that with a carb. Okay. Carbs are not the devil. Okay.
Yeah, they're good for your brain, right?
They're good for your brain. Carbs are not the enemy. Okay. They're going to give you energy. They're going to, you know, give you fiber. So, I mean, that's just a really simple way to plan your meals. And if you're, you know, a mom planning for the meals for the week, you know, just think about, you know, how you're going to fill your kid's plate. Obviously, their plate's going to be much smaller, but you can still fill half of it with vegetables, you know, and just keep putting it on there. Even if they don't like it, if they don't want it, you know, don't force them to eat it, but keep introducing it.
Go back to your bedtime routine. If you would love a snack, absolutely. Here are your options. It's a bunch of different vegetables.
Right.
So what are some other strategies that we can use, you know, during COVID-19? Because like I said, a lot of parents are having to utilize new strategies or find new ways to help keep their kids busy, help keep themselves busy. How can they like make snacks or help make meals ahead of time?
So I think just having stuff available is just is key. Okay, I have a teenage boy, and he had a little birthday get together with a couple other teenagers. And my husband's like, what are you doing? Because I put out a veggie tray, right? Because teenage boys, they like eat everything. They're like garbage disposals,
yes, right? It never ends.
And he was like, there's no way they're going to eat that. Like, that was the first thing gone because I just put it out there, you know? So availability of just fruits and vegetables for your kids, like, you know, it's okay to have, you know, snack packs or whatever, pudding packs, whatever. Just, you know, kind of rearrange your refrigerator and make it to where, you know, when they open the fridge, the first thing that kind of hits them in the face is, hey, you know, here's some pineapple or here's some yogurt or here's, you know, other really good snacks, and kind of like put the stuff that you don't want them to have all the time, just hide it a little bit because they're going to grab what's available.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's top of mind to them.
Right. And it's the same way for adults, you know, like we all buy bags of baby carrots because they're 99 cents, right?
Yes.
They're always 99 cents. You buy them, but if you throw them into the bottom of your refrigerator,
they're going to mold before you even eat them.
But if you put them up, so when you open it, they're eye level, I imagine you'll probably eat them a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So something else that I think a lot of people struggle with weight management, especially during COVID-19, is, you know, I can just have a shake and I'll be super healthy. And this is also part of diet culture because of a lot of brands that want to say, oh, just drink this shake. It has all of the nutrients that you need. Is it better to drink our calories, or is it better to like sit down and really have a meal where your body can recognize that you're eating and you're full? Or does it matter?
You know, I honestly, I don't know that it matters. You know, I'm not a big shake person just because it's messy for me. So I don't get out a blender. You know, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
But there are some really good shakes out there, and if you enjoy drinking them and they keep you full till lunch, or they keep you full until that mid-morning snack, go for it. If you don't like them, if you don't like the texture, if you could, you know, make something else that you enjoy more and keeps you full longer, go with that.
Yeah, so it's just kind of up to your own discretion.
Absolutely.
So whenever we eat better, is it true that we feel better too?
You know, I'm gonna say yes. Okay.
In light of COVID-19.
In light of COVID-19. In light of anything. I mean, your body really knows what you need to eat. You gotta trust it and you gotta listen to it, and your body is not gonna tell you to eat Oreos every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It needs a wide variety of nutrients, okay? It's gonna make your digestive system work better, you're gonna feel better, your skin's gonna look better. I mean, all these things are gonna happen if you treat your body better.
Absolutely. It makes me want to go buy some carrots. So I've got a couple more questions before we wrap up. So something that is kind of really popular right now is this thing called intermittent fasting, which is fairly new.
Mm-hmm.
Not the concept, but this diet or lifestyle that's kind of come back. How effective does intermittent fasting work as a technique to retrain our brains against binging and or eating healthier foods?
Okay, so I kind of think intermittent fasting is like the diet culture has rebranded starvation into a diet, right?
Uh-huh.
We all intermittent fasted in college, probably because we slept in all the time. Were we thinner in college? Maybe. Maybe you gained the freshman 15. Who knows?
Yeah, or maybe you just slept too much and didn't eat.
Right. It really, it works for some people. It doesn't work for others. Again, it's a diet.
Mm-hmm.
So take it for what you will. If you want to try it and it works for you and you feel great, then continue to do it. If you try it and it doesn't work for you, then stop.
Yeah, then just go back to eating your carrots
Right.
and just know that it's also okay to have an Oreo.
Right.
So kind of as a wrap up, who can we talk to at Phelps Health, if we're struggling with stress eating?
I really recommend just talking to your PCP,
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to them, letting them know, hey, I'm struggling here, and letting them, talk to you about either a plan in terms of, hey, let's work through some of your barriers to eating healthy, or maybe you need something for depression or anxiety, or there's a million things that your primary care can help you with. So
Absolutely. And if you don't have a primary care, you should definitely have one.
you should definitely have a PCP. Yes.
So I think that's a really great way to end our show. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was super informative.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So thank you so much for tuning into The Scope. If you liked our show and would like to know more, check out phelpshealth.org. Thanks so much.